football coach of East Carolina, and the Pirates are moving on after 5.5 seasons with Houston at the helm. So Blake Harrell will be making his first public statements and comments tonight, and that'll be part of the pregame show, coach's show here, Inside Pirate Athletics. That'll be coming your way at 6 o'clock right here on 94.3 The Game and up and down the ECU Sports Network. So we're looking forward to that. We've got some of the breakdown from the comments yesterday from John Gilbert, in case you missed that. And we'll play that for you in a little bit. Stephen Igo from Hoist the Colors will be coming by, and we'll be talking to him on the back half of the show. Philip Pilkington is here. Philip and Dom, who are involved with us today, have done an excellent job the last couple of days with all of the specialty programming and our regular programming, and then setting up kind of a bigger set here today. And you will really earn your money after we're off the air here to get everything broken down and out of the way, so when we start the coach's show, it'll look like the coach's show.
Yeah, that's the big thing. I don't need Zach over here like firing bottle caps or pennies or something.
I'd be worried about David Horn.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, David means business. So I think I can get it out of the way in time. We've got a minimal-ish setup here, so we're going to do everything we can because we want it to look as pretty as we can for Inside Pirate Athletics, and hope that no one there even knows we were set up in the way, except for the people who are joining us on our video feed, and we welcome all of those as well.
Yeah, thanks for being with us here today, and thanks to Dom Kosulki for all of his hard work. Dom will have an update for you coming up in a little bit. Well, obviously the story of the day, the last 24 hours has been Mike Houston's dismissal as the head football coach. And, I think when you look at everything in the last 24 hours, and there's been indication, Stephen noted this on his program, or I may have actually put this online. I'm not sure if he said it on the radio today. There were some indications after the Charlotte game this was in the offing. And so it was just a matter of how the team performed in their off week and how the team out of the off week performed, or open week, performed at Army. And I think to come out as listless as they did against Army was the real thing that made this fait accompli.
Yeah, when you look back at that game, the score says it was relatively close-ish, not as bad as Army games had been, but it didn't feel that way because
and it wasn't that close.
It was not that close at all. That third quarter really is the reason why it was as close as it was, because there was a time where Isaac and I were sitting there in the studio looking at you like, this game's going to be 70-0. I mean, this is terrible. And, I thought it was going to end up kind of how the Navy-Charlotte game ended up ending up, as they played in a later window than us. But I thought it was going to be that ugly. And still, they didn't look like much different of a team than what they looked like, I think, the previous week at Charlotte. And, it's tough. John was in a tough spot, I'm sure. It's never easy to fire somebody you've worked so closely with for 6 years or almost 6 years. And, it's unfortunate, but when the portal opens – it opens 2 days after ECU's final game against Navy. And if
it's open now, isn't it?
No.
For the players. That's what I was saying yesterday.
Them, yeah. Okay, well, for the ones because the coach has been let go, it is.
But the point is,
for everybody else. And the problem is, if you let him go, say, the night of the Navy game, within 48 hours, every kid's going to jump in. You've got no time to try and retain those kids. You don't even know who your head coach is. So kids who are in the portal from other schools that hop in right on December 1st, if you're going to try and get them to come to your school, they're going to go, well, who's your head coach? And you're going to look at them and go, well, we fired one 48 hours ago, so we'll let you know. By the way, the portal window has been shrunk tremendously, and we're going to try and hire a guy in the next 10 days. Now you can open up your job search a lot earlier. You can start talking to candidates a lot earlier, and hopefully you can have someone hired by December 1st when kids from the other 132 schools are in the portal and they're looking to come to you.
John Gilbert yesterday, and we brought you not only live coverage of the show we did, kind of the aftermath and reaction of the dismissal of Mike Houston, but we brought you the press conference live and got analysis and reaction from Joe Sampson, our Joey Football, after that. All of that is on our IBX Media app. You can go there and revisit that, and I hope you will. I think a lot of people I've talked to some people today driving back from the beach that were saying that they listened to it today on the way in, coming back from the beach this morning. This is John Gilbert, though, yesterday, cut 2 on why the decision was made now.
I think anytime you make a decision like this, timing is key, and I felt that, based on the recent outcomes, we just were not trending in the right direction and felt like now was the right time to do that.
And let's juxtapose, whatever the word is. Pilk, you're a great linguist.
Joe's the great linguist. I'm the math guy. Come on, man.
So let's add the cut after that to this as far as expectations for the football team, and that'll lead to our next point.
I feel like we should be able to field a consistent winning program at East Carolina. Like we should be in a bowl game every year, and I think we can compete for conference championships. Like I fully believe that. That's where my expectations are.
So the big question is, John said, difficult decision. You're in a constant evaluation state. And in doing that, the trend was downward. I do think this goes back, because I've done a lot of interviews. I don't even know who I've said what to today. But I think a lot of this does stem back to the year before. You can't win 2 games in year 5 and not have extenuating circumstances such as injury or just something crazy that happens, like maybe what's happening up in Boone, where there's a natural disaster and it throws everything into total helter-skelter. You can't have that in your 5th year and just say, okay, it's a blip on the radar.
Yeah.
And then follow it up with what we've seen this year, which is – and, this is the thing that it keeps coming back to here. And, I mean, there's got to be more in the NIL. I don't think there's any two ways about that. You've got to have more money spent in the NIL. And we'll get IGO to see if there's an update on what's going on with the NIL. We know that some people had signed up yesterday for the first time, and some people had committed more. But to me, I just think you're going to lose the NIL side of things, it appeared. So now that group needs to get on board. This is a good time for everybody to get on board. Everybody was saying not going to homecoming and watch this team if he's still the head. Well, he's no longer the head coach.
Yeah.
So there's no excuse for you not to go to home because weather's going to be great.
Yep.
So now's the time to get everybody going in the right direction. And now's the time, if you've not committed anything to Team Boneyard, it doesn't take $1 million from somebody individually. It'd be great. It doesn't take $100,000. But I mean, $20 a month, $10 a month, $50 a month, $100 a month, $1,000 donate. Just anything like that will add up. And if enough people get behind that, then you're in NIL budget. Because regardless of who's going to be hired as the next head coach, there's a lot of names people have been banning about around there that, some make sense, some, keep dreaming. But the first question out of anybody's mouth, and even the first question out of someone's mouth, if you reach out to them, as John said, they're going to have a committee. He's going to have a committee. And there's some people I hope he'll have on that committee. But the football people in that committee, the first question out of their mouth is going to be, what's your NIL budget?
As it should be, because, and that's the reason right there. NIL is the reason that John Gilbert said this team should be competing for a conference championship. Look at the rear ends and seats at East Carolina home games and look at it at every other team in the American. The only team that should be competing with you from an NIL standpoint, therefore on the field standpoint, is Memphis. If you get to the conference championship every year and every year you lose to Memphis, you know what? We can probably live with it. They've got the FedEx backing. They've got a solid fan base. But everybody else in this conference, smaller fan bases, less NIL, there's no reason you're not at the top, and that's part of the reason this decision had to be made, especially with the 2-10 thing last year.
I'm told that Tulsa's got a pretty robust NIL. Now, they're private, so we have no way of knowing that necessarily, but that's what I've been told.
But they got some black gold in Oklahoma that we don't have on the East Coast.
That's true. But, what they need to really have in this situation is, if we're being honest, the football NIL at East Carolina needs to somehow be, I've heard 1.5, I say double what it is, $2 million.
Yeah.
And that's just to be able to be competitive. But you need somebody who can go and participate actively in raising money for the NIL. That is something that was not a strong suit of Mike Houston's. I don't think it was anything he was particularly comfortable with. So you need someone that is a little bit of a polished person that can go to your big donors and talk with them and get money solicited for NIL and for other things that you need. You're going to have an indoor practice facility, whether you agree with it being built or not. I personally think that we could do without. But, no player is going to say, golly, tell me about your indoor practice facility or tell me about your facilities. They're going to ask you, how much are you paying me? So, I mean, to me, that's a moot point, but it is what it is. We are where we're going, and things are heading in the direction they're heading in, and they're going to. Now, that's an advantage. You'll have a really nice, state-of-the-art, brand-new facility in a couple of years. So that's a positive. I mean, it is what it is. Make it a positive.
Yeah, so the interesting, I think they do, just because you can lose days of practice. You need somewhat of an indoor facility. Now, I think the bare minimum is enough.
I don't think it's a pressing need.
Here's my thing. If you lose a day of practice, that's hurting you on Saturday because you had to practice in tennis shoes inside the basketball gym. Where do you play
the games?
Outside, but the point is you can't practice outside in a lightning storm. It's like you have to get
in a lightning storm. Yeah.
And we get it. We get hurricanes and lightning storms. And like I said, all you need is the little bubble. You don't need anything fancy. You just need the little bubble where you can be inside and not get struck. But anyways, when it goes back to the guys, you're right about the needing someone to donate or someone who is good about asking for money. The problem is NIL is so new. 20 years from now, that's going to be part of a coach's resume. How good is he at getting the donors to bring money in? Right now, the tough part is, you're right, Patrick. The problem is, how do we know who that guy is? This NIL thing is in its third year. Yes, there are some that have a little bit of a track record, but they may just have a good report at
look
said
at
school.
Stoops at Kentucky. He said, I haven't coached football in a year and a half.
True. We ain't getting a guy from Kentucky, though. The problem is...
Well, no, but I'm just saying, your head coach is not a football coach anymore. They are a fundraiser and a CEO. You have to have someone that has the makeup and the ability and the temperament to be a delegator and a CEO type and a fundraiser. Has that potential, or someone that has done it at some level.
Hey, you need a really good OC and a really good DC to make sure those run good. And then, like Coach Logan says, hire Snoop Dogg to be your head coach and run the NIL.
I think that's ridiculous. But I do think that when you look at the assistant pool, the assistant pool needs to be robust as well.
Yeah.
Your NIL and assistant pool have got to be where you're putting your money. Speaking of the NIL era and how it is tough to hire the right person in this NIL era, this is what John Gilbert had to say about that. Cut 4.
I think when you talk about the collegiate landscape, it has changed tremendously. Like this is not the same, industry that we had 2 years ago. And so when you think about NIL and you think about a future coach, I think the first 2 questions a new coach are going to ask are, how much money do we have in NIL, and where does that put us in our league from a ranking standpoint? And so I do feel that NIL, the transfer portal, and the ability to acquire talent is a really crucial piece moving forward. And I want to make sure that our athletic department and our football program in particular is in the very best position to put our best foot forward.
And this goes without saying, but you have to be able to navigate the portal. Now, I'll add something else to that. And Sunholder and I kind of talked about it. I think this new staff, whoever it is, needs to do a better job, frankly, of recruiting North Carolina. Not just Charlotte. And I just think a better job of recruiting, period. you've got to be able to not only recruit the portal, but I still think at a place like East Carolina, you have to be able to get the best players out of the state. What comes to mind when you think football and guys in the pros of far state? California, Texas, Pennsylvania, Florida. Somewhere in that top 5 or 6 is North Carolina.
Yeah, we're probably behind Ohio and then us.
It might be Ohio rather than Pennsylvania. But the point is, there are a handful of states that come to mind that are the states.
Yeah.
And North Carolina. So there's talent in the state. But when I hear coaches at 4A high school say we rarely, if at all ever, see East Carolina.
Yeah.
And you're getting kids out of Georgia or wherever. And look, if they were getting the job done, recruit where you feel like you need, and you do need to recruit the best players. But I think we're missing the boat a little bit on players in state. I really do.
There are a lot of great players here, and here's the thing:
they're going to be maybe less apt to get into the portal too.
Yeah, they're going to be less apt. But here's my thing, and I'm not opposed to East Carolina getting portal kids.
No,
but at the end of the day, you're a group of 5 team. You want to be the team that the Alabamas are poaching from. You almost want to be a farm team. You want to go back to, remember in Moneyball at the beginning when he's like, we're a farm system for the Yankees? That's what you want to be. You want to be a farm system for Alabama. You almost want to bring kids in who can start as a freshman and a sophomore, be really good, then get poached, then you bring in more teams. Almost like how the MLS does with soccer players for the Chelseas and Liverpools of the world. That's what you want to be. So you want to be the best at your level at doing that. I'm not saying you can't get a guy who's good at a JUCO or a kid who didn't work out at Ohio State, but
you've got to be able to do that.
Yeah, but you got to be able to recruit too.
But you've got to be able to, and you've got to be able to develop. And I just don't think the recruiting in state, when you hear about kids that are at places, I mean, there's a great example of this receiver at Middle Creek.
Yeah.
His mom's in the ECU Softball Hall of Fame. His dad played football here. And East Carolina, according to his head coach, has not had a discussion with him. Yeah. Who has? JMU, Charlotte, Old Dominion.
Those are all teams that are on your schedule. Or, I know JMU's not specifically, but that's your realm. That's your competition. You want to go to college football playoff, you got to be better in those teams.
Yeah. All right. We'll get a break, and when we come back, we'll get more of comments from John Gilbert, and we'll have Stephen Igo come in. Igo will be here in a little bit. We'll talk to him. We are going till about 10 till. Then we're going to backload with some breaks because we got to clear the set. It's like the opening act leaves the stage, and then they get ready for the main event, and that'll be the headliner tonight. It'll be Blake Harrell, our first comments from him. It is the Patrick Johnson Show, live from Tiebreakers today. No Jim Zoke today. We'll talk to Zoke tomorrow. And try to get Mully later in the week. Mully sometimes walks in here, but get Mully maybe a little later in the week to preview the World Series. Aren't you excited about the World Series?
Heck no. I hate both these teams with a passion. I'm pulling for the Dodgers.
All right. Well, there you go. Lesser of the evils. We'll be back.
Fall is a great time for broadcast weed control. Let Eastern Turf Maintenance give your lawn the attention it needs and keep winter weeds out of your yard. When the Pirates come out to compete, they want to make sure their field is ready too. Eastern Turf Maintenance maintains the field for ECU, and they can do the same for you and your lawn. Contact Eastern Turf Maintenance today. Go to etmlawncare.com for all the information. That's ETM for Eastern Turf Maintenance. Lawncare.com.
Get back to work, back to play, and back to the everyday with Orthopedic East from Sports Medicine Center in Greenville. Ortho East specializes in advanced care for patients with osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, debilitating joint diseases, and total joint replacements. Schedule your appointment today by going online to orthoeast.com or by calling us at 252-757-BONE. And remember, our weekend extended care clinic is open from 10 to 2 p.m. for walk-ins. Orthopedic East, official team physicians of ECU Athletics.
Living easy is the sound of children laughing as you make memories with neighbors and friends.
Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody.
It's the sound of nothing at all. It's the smell of the salt air. Hear the waters against the marsh grass. See the beauty of our coast, Bow Coast, located in Beaufort, North Carolina. Southern living's best
Adoption
small
can
town.
be a beautiful and rewarding experience. It can also be a legal nightmare. There is a legal firm here in Eastern North Carolina that can help with adoption, surrogacy, and reproductive rights. Michael and Russell is proud to be the first law firm in the area to focus on adoption and collaborative law. Ashley Michael is one of the most recognized adoption attorneys in the region, holding specialization in both adoption and family law. And Ashley Nicole Russell is an award-winning family law attorney, author, and speaker. In fact, both Ashley Michael and Ashley Nicole Russell's work with the International Academy of Collaborative Professionals has recently led to a Nobel Peace Prize nomination for IACP. Through her book and podcast, Divorce Healthy, Ms. Russell has helped hundreds of divorcees work through her collaborative process, and both women have changed the way divorce is handled. Learn more about adoption and collaborative divorce at michaelandrussell.com. In Greenville, the new office is located downtown in the historic building at the corner of 4th and Cotant Street.
As fall approaches, two things come to mind.
This is
Football
about
and
you,
cooler weather. This
your
is Rachel
family,
Davis with Advanced
and the health of
Mechanical
all
Heating
who
and
live in
Air.
Eastern
We
North
want to
Carolina.
thank you for the trust
This
you
is
have
about
put
the
in us this
transformation
summer.
of a health
Before you
system
know it,
into
cooler
something
temperatures
more
will arrive,
powerful
signaling winter
and
is
more
on the way.
human.
Don't wait.
About
Prepare
creating new
now for
ways to
colder
treat
temperatures
disease
by
and
scheduling
keep
a
you
tune-up.
well.
Give us a call
This is
today
about
at
ECU Health,
252-355-9191
which is to say, it's really all about
or
you.
visit our website,
ECU Health.
advancedmednc.com.
Minds, hearts, purpose.
You ready for this?
Oh, I'm very ready. Okay, ready?
You ready?
Streaming to the world at 943thegame.com. This is the Patrick Johnson Show. Now in all his glory, here's the P-Man.
We are live at Tiebreakers here. We'll have Inside Pirate Athletics coming up at the top of the hour. It is 5:23 here on 94.3 The Game and our related video platforms. Stephen Igo is going to be here, we hope, soon.
Yeah, he said his ETA is 5:35. Very precise. Thank you, Igo.
We appreciate that, Stephen. Just had a bunch of people come in here to Tiebreakers. Of course, if you don't know where Tiebreakers are, Smithwick Drive, Smithwick Road, and of course we are here as part of in the Bells Fork area, the original Tiebreakers. Anyway, a bunch of people just came in from down the road that were at the rally for Donald Trump today. So last Sunday you had Kamala Harris in Greenville at Minges Coliseum with a rally. And then you had Donald Trump, the Republican nominee for president and former president, in Greenville for the fifth time since 2016 at a rally. And what you were talking to some of the people, what did they tell you?
They said it was packed. They said they were putting a lot of people in standing room only. I don't know if anybody's seen pictures, but he was almost in what looks like kind of a boxing ring kind of in the middle where they could get people around him 360 degrees. So supposedly it was quite the turnout. So we'll see. Obviously, North Carolina's a big swing state. Whatever side you are, blue or red, it's an important state because it definitely has become a purple state. It used to be a red state, but now it's purple.
So we've got early voting going on now. I'm going to try to vote Wednesday is my plan.
There you go.
And if I can't do it Wednesday, I'll have to do it the next week. But that's my plan to get out. And look, you should get out and vote regardless of who you're voting for. I would just encourage you to think it through very, very carefully. All right.
They each have a track record. I'll say that.
Pilk, and if you have any questions, just email Pilk and he'll give you everything.
I will give you a great answer.
John Gilbert yesterday held a press conference and answered a lot of questions, some 20 questions that were fired his way. This is the answer to one of them, and this is John's reaction when he replied with what he thought went wrong with Mike Houston.
We certainly had success here. Like if we go back to the back-to-back bowl seasons, we have not had that here at East Carolina in a long time. But I also think that as the model changed, you're acquiring new talent every year. And obviously over the last 2 years from a success standpoint, that just has not translated to the field, is really where I look at it.
And again, I think you go back, Mike was loyal to Mason Garcia.
Yep.
I think that was where some of this started to come unraveled. you got to appreciate the fact that he did have loyalty to Mason Garcia and gave Garcia a chance. But, I think you go back to last year and the quarterback play was so porous that when you look at other things that were wrong with this roster, it was so glaring it overshadowed the other deficiencies. I mean, the offensive line is still a big problem area.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's a huge problem area in my opinion still. It's better. The play has been better, but it's just not where it needs to be. The other parts of this are, the receivers have ability, but they just haven't performed, especially now. We saw a little more in traffic contested catches against Army in the second half, but they were in more of a prevent than anything at that point and keeping everything in front of them. So, I mean, I think you can't be in year 5 and have a 2-win season and then come out this year and just get run out of the stadium at Charlotte, in-state rival, in-state opponent. They're a conference in-state opponent, so they're a rival, like it or not.
Yeah.
And then to come out in the first half against Army and just be as listless as it seemed like the team was.
I want to go back to something you said in the last segment when you talked about 2-10 is okay if there's a crazy injury, right? So like Willie Fritz was forgiven for his 2-10 season at Tulane because Michael Pratt was hurt.
And he had a bunch of
other injuries too.
Yeah.
But the tough thing with this was, you mentioned the loyalty to Mason Garcia, which was great. It shows you the kind of man Mike Houston is and how much he cares and his loyalty to the program, to the student athletes and everything. But I think what frustrated a lot of people is it would have been different if Mason Garcia was somebody who transferred in, but he had been in this program for already 2 years, and they're going, how did you not see this coming?
Years.
Yeah, they've already been in for 3 years. How did you not see that you did not have a quarterback on the roster in the portal era where you could have went and got somebody else?
Get a JUCO guy.
Yeah. And now, now it's a little different. These guys have been decent. They've been a heck of a lot better than last year. They're no Holt Hailers.
Well, I mean, somebody without arms would have been better than last year.
Last year was bad. But, this year you hope you get the right guys because you're getting them out of the portal. But then again, like you said, you go from 2-10 to, you're only 3-4, but you beat an FCS team. So does that really count as a win? UTSA has not been.
It's on the schedule.
I know. But from a letting the coach go, keeping the coach standpoint. UTSA is not what we thought they were going to be when everybody was saying they're projected to finish second in the conference. You were right.
I was right. No, I was one of those teams.
I was high on UTSA,
yeah.
especially because the way their schedule fell, and I was high on McCown with the way he looked in the bowl game, and he's not impressed. I mean, heck, they lost to Rice.
I know.
Maybe E.J. Warner's better than Owen McCown. Of course, E.J. Warner's dad was better than Owen McCown's dad in the NFL, so there you go. But, hey, neither one of them were great in college. I don't think either one of them was drafted. I know Warner wasn't. I can't remember if Luke, whichever McCown, Josh McCown was a late pick. But, anyways, back on topic. Like you said, 2-10, and then you just back it up with lackluster performance. Losses are one thing, lackluster, uncompetitive. It'd been different if you were 3-4 right now and you got beat by UTSA, but they were 7-0. You lost to Army, okay. You beat Charlotte, and then say App was 6-0 right now, or even 5-1. Say they played the game against Liberty, which didn't get played, but they lost that game. Liberty's okay. Everybody we've lost to is like a one-loss team. Okay, 3-4, not bad, but Charlotte's, I don't know.
Well, let's get a break in here. Let's actually send it back to Dom. Dom will give us an update, and then we'll hit a break, and then we'll come back, and Steve and I hopefully will be with us, and we'll carry that till we leave the airwaves here. Top of the hour, we'll have Inside Pirate Athletics, and looking forward to that. We'll bring that to you with Blake Harrell coming up this evening here on from Tiebreakers and on 94.3 The Game and the ECU Sports Network. All right, a timeout. We'll return and have more of our show. But first, here is Dom Kasulki. He's sulking a little from Dom hung in there yesterday. Dom had quite the weekend.
Yeah, he hung in there watching he was trying to work and watching his
Vikings, who I thought were going to win.
Yeah, I did too. Sorry, Dom.
And they made 2 great comebacks in the fourth quarter alone. But anyway, Dom Kasulki with an update on what's going on around Pirate Nation and beyond. Dom?
Thanks, Patrick. Tough loss to the Lions last night for the Vikings. But East Carolina has made the first coaching change of the 2024 season. The school announced Sunday that Mike Houston had been fired. Director of Athletics for ECU, John Gilbert, addressing the media on Sunday.
Mike poured his heart and soul into this program. Mike Houston is a good man. This was a performance-based decision. We have not seen the results that we all want, and we felt that change was needed. We have high expectations for our program, and those expectations are not changing.
ECU was 27-38 in 5+ seasons with Houston in charge. The Pirates had 2 seasons above 500 and went to the Birmingham Bowl at the end of the 2022 season. Defensive coordinator Blake Harrell has been named the team's interim coach for the remainder of the season. East Carolina volleyball remained unbeaten at home as the Pirates broke through for a 3-2 victory over Wichita State, the first against the Shockers, inside Williams Arena at Minges Coliseum. ECU soccer ties the UAB 2-2 to earn a point in the American standings on Senior Day at Johnson Stadium. The Panthers' losing streak is up to 4 games after falling to Washington. The Commanders win 40-7 at Northwest Stadium. Carolina is now 1-6 and will visit the Denver Broncos in Week 8. The stage is set for the World Series. The Dodgers will clash with the Yankees in this year's Fall Classic starting Friday in Los Angeles. And tomorrow night, the NBA tips off. Last year's NBA champions, the Boston Celtics, and the new and improved New York Knicks match up to start the season. Celtics are 5.5-point favorites. Following that game are the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Los Angeles Lakers. Timberwolves are the slight favorites at 1.5 points. That's it for your sports update and Pirate Report. Let's send it back to a quick break, and then let's send it back to Tiebreakers with Patrick Johnson, Philip Pilkington, and Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
Are you missing a tooth? Doctors Bowman, Padgett, and Associates can help you with state-of-the-art surgical procedures such as dental implants. Bowman, Padgett, and Associates agree that dressing up like a pirate for game day is one thing, but smiling like one may not be the way you want to go. Smile like a movie star instead. Schedule your appointment at BowmanPadgett.com. That's BowmanPadgett.com.
We are the Minnesota PCU.
Anson Belt & Buckle offers a micro-adjustable, holeless belt, giving you the perfect fit every time. As an ECU alumni-owned business since 2009, Anson Belt is proud to be the official belt of East Carolina Athletics. Looking for a new belt for yourself or a special pirate? Visit AnsonBelt.com to see why over 30,000 customers have given their Anson Belt a 5-star review. With dozens of materials to choose from and thousands of possible combinations, you'll find the belt for every occasion, especially game day. At AnsonBelt.com.
Looking for outdoor storage, maybe a she shed, man cave, tiny home, or greenhouse? If so, East Carolina Outdoor Products is your one-stop shop. They carry wood sheds, small to large, all customizable online. East Carolina Outdoor Products also has a full line of custom steel buildings, including carports, garages, workshops, and commercial-graded structures. They're the only company in Eastern Carolina that manufactures, delivers, and sells outdoor storage buildings. And they're pirates. 10 locations in Eastern North Carolina.
Tell them Henry sent you for an additional discount.
Get ready, Greenville. Jaggers is going to open on Memorial Drive in front of Academy Sports soon. What are you excited to try? And what sets Jaggers apart? Everything, and I mean everything, is made from scratch. Burgers, chicken, and salads like you've never tasted. Shoestring fries, too. It's a fun environment.
You know what the problem
is
with standard belts?
If you haven't been to Jaggers, you just have to taste it for yourself. Nothing is prepackaged. You're going to love Jaggers.
But with Anson Belt
Coming soon to Memorial Drive in front of Academy Sports in Greenville.
Listen up, Greenville. The Kawasaki Good Times Demo Tour is coming to Ron Ayers Motorsports Friday, October 25th and Saturday, October 26th. The Good Times Demo Tour is bringing its semi with over a dozen different demo models for you to test ride. Find out which Kawasaki is right for you. In addition to factory incentive, every demo rider is eligible for Cowie Cash, which could save up to $500. To ride, you must be 18 years of age, have proof of valid motorcycle endorsement, and pass a breathalyzer. Attendees are required to follow all local and state public health and safety regulations. Be sure to bring your riding gear, helmets, glasses, jacket,
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color, not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's Cut in color, and let our experienced stylists take you Everything from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are
The
endless.
stunning conclusion of the show. It's the P-Man here on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back. We've got Dom Kosulki back in the studios. Philip the Ref Pilkington is here. Patrick Johnson and Hoist the Colors. Stephen Igo, who's been on a whirlwind for the last 48 hours.
Yeah, good to be here.
Igo was on today, Hoist the Colors Radio, talking about what we have been talking about for the last 24 hours, and that is the dismissal of Mike Houston and where the Pirates are going to go from here. So when we look at this, Stephen, obviously we talked a lot about it in our coverage yesterday, but when you look at it here today, a little bit on after this little time has sunk in on this, Mike Houston, 5.5 years at the helm of the program, and Blake Harrell now takes over.
Yeah, it's been still been a whirlwind of a few days for all of us, and still trying to digest it to some degree because it's just it all just happens so quick, Patrick. As you know, it's like
and we had some anticipation this was coming, but then when it happens,
when the trigger's pulled, it's just it's crazy, and everybody wants to know who the candidates are, and all the focus shifts from all right. Mike Houston, you guys have done a good job of trying to find the balance of looking back at what went wrong in his era, because I feel like you still have to do your due diligence of, all right, why did the Mike Houston era go wrong? Also, you got to talk about the game. There's still 5 games left to play. Then you've got the aspect of there's a coaching search going on. So trying to balance all that has been, I think, the toughest challenge early on, because everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, but a large majority of people want to know where the search is going. But, just talking with sources early today, it's like they are very much in information gathering phase. There's no – like in the past when they hired Mike Houston, he was the target. He was the only target. He was who they were going to hire, and that was with Dave Hart as he was hiring John Gilbert. With basketball, we knew it was going to be Mike Schwartz. This one, it's like you're pulling the trigger now, and now you're assessing the entire field.
And it's not to say there's not some desirables on
absolutely.
the list.
I'm sure there's a short list.
Yeah, but there are things you've got to do right now to
and you don't have to rush.
And you don't have to be in a big hurry. I want to play this cut because I'm interested to get you wrote about this is something you wrote about, but John was asked why the firing didn't happen after Charlotte.
A decision of this magnitude, it involves it involves a lot of people, and I wanted to make sure that number one, that we had exhausted everything that we could exhaust before we made that decision, but it also gave people the time to process it over the last 2 weeks, and then obviously yesterday's outcome.
So, again, this, as you and I both were aware, this had been bandied about as soon as really the Charlotte game ended.
Yeah, I talked with another source this morning that said after the back-to-back losses to App and Liberty, it was I would say it was first really. It had been discussed going into the season. All right, if we lose to Norfolk State, we might have to do something right away.
Well, right.
Realistically, the first conversations of, all right, if we lose to UTSA and then we lose to Charlotte, we're going to have to do something. But then they beat UTSA, which was preseason, as you guys talked about, top second?
Well, I thought
second
they were going to be a kind of contending team.
Yeah, and then you go to Charlotte as an 8-point favorite, and I think that had been kind of put on the back burner because you expected –
they've been awful.
Them to win at Charlotte.
Yeah, they've been awful. Charlotte had been terrible.
And I think just with the outcome of that game, it was just so shocking. I remember talking to a high-level donor after that game, and it was just like, man, I won't – his perspective was he wanted Mike Houston gone then. But John Gilbert, I think, really wanted to assess the situation, take his time, not overreact, see how they responded at Army. But the wheels definitely started to turn after that Charlotte game. There's no doubt. That was – I mean, that was the end, unless Mike Houston pulled off a miracle at Army, and then, or at least they were competitive and then they played well down the stretch, which obviously will not happen right now.
Well, I think if anything, the first half and how flat things came out really kind of affirmed the decisions that were really strongly being close to being made at that point.
For sure. I mean, it's, if you go up there and you lose 34-31 and heck, you even start the game up.
Well, if you show some fire and some organization, and I think that was the thing that just they looked.
You had 2 weeks
uninspired.
to prepare.
Yeah, you had 2 weeks to prepare.
And I mean, I think I think a lot of it too is like they had the players meeting. They tried to come out. They tried to fix it. And if you go down score on the first drive, maybe the game has a completely different feel. But it's just, I mean, it had reached a breaking point after Charlotte. People just were not going to put up with any more of this.
Well, and I'll say this too. There's a couple other things I want to address. Stephen Igo is here. We've got Philip Pilkington, Patrick
who was
Johnson
not responsible for that noise, by the way.
Yes,
you just heard.
That might have been.
Blame it on Philip.
We'll blame it on you,
That was not
Phil.
me. I didn't touch a darn thing.
But so we report this yesterday, and I know some of the players are upset with the way that went down. This is just sort of the era we're in. I mean, this is. It's not like this was a change to the badminton team. I mean, this is your major athletics driver in this. Just in all of sport.
Yeah, I mean, any sport that has this much attention, it's it's almost one of those things. You kind of have to decide who to tell, and the decision was made. I know immediately after that, John made some calls to your high stake donors in the program, and also he addressed the coaches. And I think when you do that and you talk to the coaches are going to talk to their family. The family's going to talk to their friends, and then it kind of spreads out from there. So it's like, if you call a team meeting at 9 a.m. on a Sunday or 10 a.m. on Sunday, everybody's going to know anyways. So it's
well,
very
that's the
difficult
thing that shows
to
that they moved the meeting up, and that meeting time is the same every Sunday.
Right.
So I mean, we can't apologize for the fact that we're doing our job.
Yeah, I mean, I
understand the frustration.
Yeah, 100%. You see it both sides. You got to look at it both ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, I'm just glad that Mike Houston found out the right way, because if this would have been the Carolina Panthers organization, do you know how many players have found out they've been cut listening to the radio? They didn't even call the player. I mean, the coaches have been fired the same way. So at least they
not running this.
At least they called Mike Houston in and did it to
Mr.
his
Tepper,
face.
if you're interested in some NIL dollars, certainly feel free to drop them in here.
I don't know. I mean, we might be better without.
Yeah, I don't want his saying anything.
If he has some NIL stake, he's going to have some say in what's going on. That might be a bad thing.
All right, let's talk about one of the things here with Igo that a lot of people are talking about, and that is the list of candidates. Let's start with the interim, Blake Harrell.
Yeah.
I mean, his charge, we're going to hear from him in a few minutes. This will be the first public comments that he's made. This is as big a crowd that has been in here this early all season.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this tells you how interested people are in getting here and hearing what's going on tonight. And I'm not talking about regulars. I'm talking just a bunch of people that have come in. And Blake Harrell's walked in right now. So we'll talk to these guys, and we'll hear from him. But his charge is to really hold this thing together right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a difficult situation for anybody. I mean, I'm sure Blake will talk about it tonight, but he's a lifelong friend of Coach Houston, so I'm sure he has aspirations of being a head coach one day. And I'm sure he's got very mixed emotions on taking over the job, but at the same time, it's a good opportunity for Blake. And if they go run the table, crazier things have happened. You look at Georgia Tech a few years ago with Brent Key, I believe, getting the job there as interim. So, I mean, it's happened before. It's not out of the realm of possibility. And look, I mean, there's still.
I mean, hell, even Ted Roof got his job at Duke because he went on a decent enough run as the interim.
Right. So, I mean, everything is on the table, and you're 7-point favorites against Simple. This is a winnable game. Let's say you win this game, which won't be easy, but then you have the bye week to kind of regroup even more and build on the momentum. So this is a huge, huge Saturday for the team.
We got a few more minutes. Do you have anything that you were before we go?
Yeah,
through some other
just
people?
and Michael and I tried to get this today, and then we were kind of cut short. I think Brooks was calling in, but you mentioned, this is a tough task. I'm sure it's an emotional time for Blake Harrell. You mentioned the lifelong friend of Blake. Yes, he's getting an opportunity he's never had, but his friend just got fired.
Yeah,
I mean that's tough. And those guys and Coach Houston brought Blake Harrell in. It wasn't like Blake got assigned to Mike's staff. So that part of it's a little tough, and then also. As we kind of mentioned, what is, Blake moving forward, you got the next 2 games on the schedule, or actually next 3 games, you're probably going to be favored. And then if you win those 3, do you carry some momentum into North Texas? I mean, it's going to be tough twice in 9 days going to the Central Time Zone, dealing with that travel, but at least the first one is a Thursday. So it is in 9 days as opposed to 7. And, if you go out there and you pull off a stunner at North Texas, hey, we're starting to have the conversation. Do we quit looking? Because the guy might have been in our building the whole time.
All right. Go ahead, Iko.
I was just going to say, that's the thing. You got to take it 1 week at a time. But I think if you rattle off those 3 winnable games, you win them all, then I think you start to have the real conversation going into North Texas.
And the other part of this is going to be the backdrop of all this is you're still doing a search.
Exactly. The search is going to be going on the whole time. And there's going to be money spent on that. You're not just sitting there and John Gilbert's not just sitting there in his office making phone calls. He's going to be traveling. He's going to be utilizing a search firm. So, I mean, there is a lot. There's going to be a lot of resources used, and that's often what makes, keeping the interim a hard thing. But, again, it's happened, and if ECU goes winning football games, then, I wouldn't rule it out.
Just trying to see, do we have on here about the committee? Bill, do we have anything where
it was who all would, who all's going to have say or something like that, I think. I can't remember what I titled these things. I did this before Hoist the Colors. All, full disclosure, I did this at 10:30 this morning.
He didn't really give a hard.
Yeah, maybe that was one of the ones where he kicked the question, so we didn't.
Well, no,
put
what
the
he did say in that
there
was
would be somebody
there's going to be a committee.
Yeah.
And so my question to you is, if you were, because look, there's people who are committed to financially giving to they're going to want their say
100%
on a committee or just being involved. So, but if you were going to put some football people on the committee, and they don't necessarily have to be ECU football people, but how would you go about that?
I mean, you got to get. I would try to get I don't know how realistic it is, but I would try to get a former coach who's had success here, who knows what it takes. I would try to get a former player who is very involved with the day-to-day workings of the program, or at least follows it. There's a lot of former players out there that you would think follow it closely, but do not. So I try to get those 2 people. I'd put Cliff Godwin on the committee. I don't know if he would do it, but I would ask him if he wanted to do it. I feel like if you asked him, he cares about this place enough, he would make time for it. And he has a great passion for this university. So those 3 people from a sports perspective, I would try to find.
Everybody likes to mention the name John Gruden. Well, if you have a connection, though, to John Gruden through Tennessee and you're John Gilbert, I think you at least call him and say, hey.
I mean, you call him,
Who would you recommend?
Yeah, I mean.
Why not pick that brain?
Ask him if he'd recommend himself.
Well, I mean, you could, but let's be realistic. I think that's, who knows? Probably not. But I'm sure he's got some ideas on what you need.
Yeah, from my understanding, he doesn't dislike the attention. So, I mean, giving him a call won't hurt anything.
And I don't know if you have any sort of entree into Saban from your time at Alabama, but if you do, he's willing to speak to you. Get his opinion.
I mean, Gilbert spent a long time there. He was around people, when Saban was there. So, I mean, I think I mean, that's the thing is John Gilbert. People can have opinions of him, whatever, but he is very well connected. He knows a lot of people.
I mean, in other words, it just doesn't have to be an ECU thing.
It doesn't, and it shouldn't. I mean, that doesn't mean ECU people shouldn't be considered, because they should, but, you got to look at everybody with this time frame. That's one of the things I like most about making the move this early. It gives you plenty of time to look at all options.
All right, what's going on Hoist the Colors?
We had our VIP chat today. We do it every Monday. I think we're about 7 pages long today. Each page has 25 posts. So it's been a lot of answering questions, a lot of questions that I don't know the answer to but people want my opinion for whatever reason. So I've tried my best to provide some insight. 50% off VIP coverage as well.
I think all these people are here they heard Igo was going to be on the show tonight.
I don't think that's it.
I think a lot of these people showed up tonight.
There's a guy who walked in a purple and white checkered shirt. I think it might be him.
I think it could. Well, no, Igo's doesn't have a purple and white checkered shirt on.
No, Igo's also got a lot more hair than the guy I'm talking about. But
I am wearing an ECU logo though, so maybe
I
they are
know.
here.
Yeah.
Careful. Oh, why not? I mean, that's part of the gig tonight,
especially
right?
now, yeah, on this show.
All right, good to see you. Keep up the great work.
Absolutely.
And I have more questions, but we'll ask you.
That's fine. We got plenty of time.
We got a ton of time to talk about it. Pilk, great job, and appreciate it. Dom, back in the studio. Tomorrow we'll get Jim Zoki on the show. Looking forward to having him on. And coming up at the top of the hour, Inside Pirate Athletics with Blake Harrell and his first public comments. So there's a palpable buzz in the room.
There is. It is definitely a better vibe than it has been the rest of the year. Like you said, obviously a lot of these near tables are ones that we've seen every week. These are the regulars, but that back half is filling, and it's a lot of it is to hear Blake. Some of it might be people who needed a bite out of a beer after the rally. See a lot of MAGA hats, but I definitely think they're here to hear Blake Harrell, and they could have chose any bar in town, but here they are, and we're 8 minutes away exactly.
All right. We're saying goodbye for now. Be back with you tomorrow in the morning on Talk of the Town in just a few minutes on Inside Pirate Athletics. I go on at noon tomorrow with Hoist the Colors, and then we'll be back here with Jim Zoki at 5 tomorrow for the Patrick Johnson Show.
Medlin Chevrolet is your trusted Ayton dealership. Medlin Chevrolet has made their home in Ayton, serving Pitt, Lenore, and surrounding areas for